And we welcome you to our continuing coverage of the Philadelphia Eagles 2021 regular season presented by DraftKings. Hello, everyone. Eagles insider Dave Spadaro, along with Fran Duffy. We're here at the NovaCare Complex. The Eagles and Lane Johnson back in action after the bye week. And Fran, we are in the midst of a playoff chase here. The Eagles and the Washington football team on Sunday at Lincoln Financial Field. Playoff fever. Catch it.
Just an absolute pivotal four-game stretch here for the Eagles. Obviously, all four NFC East division games. The Eagles don't have a division win yet this season. Looking to change that here on Sunday at Lincoln Financial Field.
And there are so many storylines here, Fran. We've got to begin with, I think, the COVID-19 situation and what Washington is going through. The Eagles, of course, earlier this week placed two players on the COVID reserve list, the reserve COVID list. Quez Watkins, who is a big loss for the Eagles if he's not able to play. And practice squad running back Jason Huntley. Now, to understand the rules, if you don't know them, a player who is on that list must have back-to-back negative COVID tests within 24-hour periods, right? And then you or the 10-day period is something you just have to live through, which I happened to live through earlier this season. It is not fun. Eagles getting by at this point, Fran, and we're always crossing our fingers because it can change at any moment. With those two players on the list, the Washington football team, when I counted it up on the roster just a few moments ago, 20 players on their roster, their active roster on the COVID-19 list, on the reserve COVID list. This is... To give you an idea of the extent to how this impacts a team, if it stands, Washington would have its fifth center of the season. John Toth, who was on the Eagles practice squad in 2017, he would be the one lining up at center. This is a tremendous challenge for somebody we all respect, Ron Rivera, and his coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that you were hoping that this would not pop up throughout the course of this NFL season. Obviously, with all of the different things going on around the country right now, it's something that all of America is dealing with. Hopefully, everybody out there get vaccinated. If you're vaccinated with your first two shots, go and get the booster and just keep yourself safe.
I count 20 players. And among those players, as we take a look at Darius Slay, and you won't want to miss Darius Slay, who's always got something to say. I know he's big play Slay, but he could also be big say Slay.
I like that.
In our Audible, make sure you check that out. It was really, really entertaining, and it has been really great all season long. Jordan Mailata so far has been the very best of the Audible, but he is available, Darius Slay, and really has a good time, not only on the field, but the way he interacts with the fans. This is a guy who, A, should be a Pro Bowl cornerback this year, and B, is someone who really enjoys the game, Fran, and that joy shows through.
And not just Pro Bowl. I mean, he's going to be in the discussion for All-Pro as well, for one of the very best in the league with what he is doing here this season. Darius Slay, certainly one of the best corners in football, playing that way here this fall. It's been a lot of fun to watch him on a weekly basis. And again, like I said, he's got this pivotal four-game stretch. We'll see, Dave, if he sees Washington's number one threat in Terry McLaurin, who is coming off a concussion he suffered last week against the Dallas Cowboys.
Right, and McLaurin in 4 games against the Eagles has been an Eagle killer. 22 catches, 356 yardage, 3 touchdowns. Fran, Terry McLaurin's a star.
He is. He is a 3-level threat in that he can win in the quick game and can get yards after catch and be a big play threat that way. He could take the top off and work down the field. Eagles fans have seen that here against this team over the last couple of years. And then also, he's one of the better intermediate route runners that the Eagles will see this year. He can win on digs and comebacks and over routes. He's got a lot of savvy to his game. He is tough. He plays through contact. He's very reliable at the catch point, and he can create the big play. So I think when you look at Washington, Dave, if you look at how often at the targets and how they are spread out in this pass game, Terry McLaurin has been targeted 100 times. The next most targeted player on offense, J.D. McKissic, has 51. Double the amount of targets from the second leading pass catcher for this Washington football team. Losing Terry McLaurin would be a huge loss for Washington, and it speaks to the value he brings to that offense.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the players who are on the COVID list, and among them, Jonathan Allen, Kendall Fuller. J.D. McKissic is didn't practice yesterday because of a concussion as well. McLaurin didn't practice because of a concussion. Again, the center position is just a mess for them. Curtis Samuel, hamstring injury, didn't practice yesterday. You expect to get some of those players back, including their quarterback, Taylor Heineke, who was listed with a right elbow injury on their list, actually limped off the field last week against the Cowboys with a knee injury. So he's beat up, likely to play. Fran, look, Sims is also one of the wide receivers, also on the COVID list. I mean, if you are designing the offense for the Washington football team against this Eagles defense, which now ranks 9th in the NFL in total defense, and you know that you've been struggling running the football. I mean, what are you doing here? You get the tight end back, who's a right?
Logan Thomas came back, but then he got hurt. No, he's out for the year now. Yeah.
So who's their tight end now?
So they have John Bates as the rookie, for a rookie 4th-round pick, who has been a weapon for them as a blocker in the run game and one of the key parts of the way they played. Ricky Seals-Jones has kind of chimed in as well as a pass catcher, but John Bates has been the every down guy, a rookie 4th-round pick, like I said, out of Boise, and he has been a devastating blocker for them in the run game. And really, Dave, I think when you look at their success since coming back from their Week 9 bye, where they had that 4-game win streak before taking on the Cowboys last week, they want to run the ball. That is the foundation of this offense, and it starts with Antonio Gibson, outside zone run. They want to get him out in space, get him up to the second level, and let him work. And he's not just a small scat back. I mean, he's 6'2", 220 pounds. He's got 4.4 speed, and his patience and vision has really improved here this year. Now, the big thing with him is that he leads the NFL in fumbles. He has put the ball on the ground a lot. They have lost a bunch of those fumbles. He fumbled late in that game last week, did not see the field after that. And so I would expect, with all of the issues that this team is having from a health standpoint, if he's healthy, they're going to play him. They need as much firepower as possible going into this matchup.
And the Eagles, since Week 8, rank 3rd in the NFL in run defense, allowing just 81.8 yards per game. Fran, last week, the Washington football team playing Dallas while the Eagles enjoyed the bye week, and I'm sure you enjoyed the bye week as well. Lovely weekend.
Beautiful.
I think it was 29 or 34 yards in the first half. Turnovers, fell a 24-0 deficit. But I never count out Washington. I just think Ron Rivera does a great job as a coach. I think they're tough. I think they're gritty. They've shown great resiliency. I mean, look, they lost their starting quarterback at the beginning of the season. They rip off this 4-game winning streak. And look, we have 2 6-7 teams playing for at this point, staying alive in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, they have the 7th spot right now, Washington, and the Eagles obviously hoping to get there. And so when you look at Washington, honestly, Dave, just the arc of this team, very similar to the Eagles, where they had a little bit of a slow start, and then mid-season, and for them, it started with their bye week in Week 9, completely overhauled what they were doing on both sides of the football. On defense, it was a little bit more dramatic than what we're seeing with the offense, but I think when you look at the way that they have really rebounded, last week, obviously, was not pretty. You mentioned 34 yards on offense. That offensive line struggled to hold up. Taylor Heineke did not perform particularly well against that pressure defense from the Cowboys. But I think when you look outside of that performance over these last few weeks, Washington has been very efficient on offense, and they've been really aggressive on defense. That defensive line is playing really, really well, despite not having Chase Young, despite not having Montez Sweat. Those guys inside have been terrors for them.
Yeah, and add these names to the list potentially. On the COVID list, Jonathan Allen, a monster of a defensive tackle. Matt Ioannidis, the Temple product, who is just a
great player.
Play hard, try hard, highly productive player. Big losses for this Washington team, potentially.
And just this afternoon, Cameron Curl, who's one of their top safeties, he went on the COVID-19 list. So, I think when you look at this defense, it's going to be a question about who's on the field for them. But you know how this is, Dave. When the teams face these kinds of situations, whether it's been these last 2 years with COVID-19 or with injuries or whatever it is, it's always the next man up. And that's the way Washington, I got to think, is going to be treating this. Going into this is a unique situation. My guess, they'll keep things simple. They're going to rely on things that have worked for them over these last few weeks, and they're just going to spam the Eagles with those plays along with some gadget stuff. You know what I mean? I feel like this is one of those games where if you're the Eagles defense, you have to come into this with Washington's offense expecting that, hey, we need to steal some points here or there. If we come into this shorthanded, we have got to find ways to be able to put some points on the board.
Boy, that's so risky when you've got new players who haven't been on the field, who don't have the timing down, short practice weeks around the NFL. Interesting stuff here. This is our continuing coverage of the Philadelphia Eagles 2021 regular season. Our coverage presented by DraftKings. We're live at the NovaCare Complex. I'm Eagles insider Dave Spadaro, along with Fran Duffy. Delighted to be with you on this Thursday afternoon, and we're giving you our thoughts on Sunday's game, one in which Harold Carmichael, at halftime, will receive his Hall of Fame ring. And everyone who is at the game, please stay in your seats. This has been a remarkable year, 2 years really, for Harold, who waited so long to get the call to the Hall, and then had to wait another year because of COVID. Went in August, and now the final kind of the final piece of the Triple Crown. He's gotten the jacket. He's gotten the bust. Now he gets his Pro Football Hall of Fame ring at halftime. Pro Football Hall of Fame outgoing President David Baker will be on hand to present Harold with that ring. But we're talking about that sort of stuff. But we want you to also tune in and get really into it, starting on Sunday with our kickoff show presented by Exalta. Sunday, December 19th, 1 p.m. on our PhiladelphiaEagles.com website, the app, our official app, and our social media channels. And then we've also got the Game Plan show. Fran, I know that's your show, baby. It's a great one. It airs on Sunday at 10 o'clock on NBC 10, and then on the website, the app, and the social media channels on Friday. What do you got coming up?
So we've got, first of all, Nick Sirianni joined us here on the show. So we got some good film breakdown work in there with Coach Sirianni this week. You do not want to miss that. We're going to have a shortened version inside Eagles Game Plan, but the full version, I think it was like 11 minutes, 10 or 11 minutes.
You can't fit Nick in a segment.
No,
right?
you got to play the whole thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. So he and I get into a handful of plays. We talk through some of the game planning process, what happened during the bye week. So that'll all be dropping later this week as well across all Philadelphia Eagles digital channels.
Great stuff. Eagles and the Washington football team. An odd quirk in this 2021 regular season schedule. We haven't seen Washington since the end of the 2020 regular season.
Yep.
They opened the 2020 season. They closed the 2020 season. And now they're the first of a 4-game NFC East run for the Eagles. Washington playing 5 straight NFC East games, Fran. And, you got to win in the division. Eagles haven't won in the division, as you said, and it's time, or it's go home time.
No, I mean, this is the most pivotal stretch of the year. And we knew this coming in, right? It was that this is going to be a really important month for this Eagles football team. And the way that they went into the bye week with the amount of big plays on offense and the things that we were able to see from this Eagles defense, now they were able to spend this bye week, focus on what you do well, really kind of whittle that down and say, okay, how do we make this the structure of what we do moving forward? And we're continuing to see the schemes on both sides evolve. And I think that's going to be really important to watch here down the stretch.
Yeah, and we have some question marks with the Philadelphia Eagles, most of them around who's going to play on Sunday. We really don't have a feel yet, although Nick Sirianni used the word hopeful and trending in the right direction when he met the media on Wednesday when he talked about injuries to Miles Sanders, who said he feels great, ready to go after that sprained ankle. Hopeful is the word used for Jordan Howard, who's missed the last 2 games, been missed in this Eagles offense. Yep. Power runner, terrific production this year. And, of course, the quarterback position, we don't know Jalen Hurts, who's been much more cautious this week in his evaluation than he was a couple of weeks ago. Gardner Minshew steps in against the Jets, does a very fine job. So whoever it is, the Eagles feel really good about their quarterback picture. For Washington, not as easy because they've got to prepare for both.
They have to prepare for both. And I think when you look at this Eagles offense, it ultimately will come down to execution. And we saw Gardner Minshew execute. We've seen Jalen Hurts execute. Gardner did a great job as a back. He did exactly what you want a backup quarterback to do a couple weeks ago against the New York Jets. Stepped in, executed the offense, was efficient, capitalized on the opportunities that were in front of him, and helped lead the Eagles to a win.
And that's where I think, Fran, from a Washington standpoint, it's got to be difficult. And when you talk about kind of playing your base things and doing what you know how to do, I would expect Washington not to be fancy at all on defense, given so many new pieces along the defensive line. They signed one of our old Eagles, Akeem Spence. Yes. So he's going to come in. He's not going to know the scheme. He's just going to come in and play football.
Yeah. To me, when you look at the way that they're playing defense right now, they've played a ton of zone coverage. They're playing more zone than anybody in the NFL over the last month. And that can be difficult on the back end when you're trying to bring new guys in. Especially, I mentioned Cameron Curl, the second-year safety for Washington. Well, he has been a key part of that defense, and if he's not out on the field, well, now you have to try and put a new safety in there. They've been playing a lot with 3 safeties on the field. So when you're talking about trying to incorporate new pieces defensively, especially on the back 7, with the defensive line, I think you could try and get away. You can get away with that a little bit. They've been pretty basic from their rush standpoint and just trying to hold up at the point of attack. And they've been really good in terms of defending the run this year. Obviously, they have not faced a running game quite like the Eagles, but I think when we look at this moving forward, it's going to be a huge matchup here just to watch and see who plays. We're not going to know until we get to Sunday, unfortunately.
Fran, why is the Eagles' run game, whether Jalen has been on the field or not, why has it been so good?
I think there's 2 things. One, the Eagles have a number of really unique blue chip talents, and I think the 3 pillars there are obviously Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata, Jason Kelce, right? So you have those 3 unique physical talents. Landon Dickerson comes in as a rookie and has been really strong. But I think when you look at those 3 guys, that gives the Eagles the ability to be really versatile with the run game. I've talked numerous times about how multiple they are. They do so many different things. Every NFL team pulls offensive linemen, but I would say that no team in the NFL pulls their offensive tackles, which the Eagles do with Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata. No team pulls their tackles as often or as effectively as the Eagles, and that speaks to their athleticism. We know what Jason Kelce is, probably the best pulling center in the NFL as well, but that allows them to be creative with their run schemes and with their screen game, and that's where the Eagles have really excelled.
We're taking a look now at the Eagles' defensive line. We saw Josh Sweat flash briefly through there. Josh Sweat, my guest on the Eagles Insider podcast, which will drop later today. Josh is a man who generally is not a media, center of attention, but he was great with me. What a story. Coming out of high school, really wasn't, thinking a whole lot about football, and then all of a sudden he's this great player in high school, 5-star recruit. Injuries have happened, and he's just gotten better and better every year, to the point where, Fran, you kind of look at him and go, we need him to kind of lead the way with the pass rush off the edge.
Yeah, and I think when you have those 2 defensive tackles inside with Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave, that could take a little bit of the weight off the shoulders of those defensive ends. And, Josh Sweat has lined up and down the line of scrimmage here this year where with the injuries the Eagles have had up front, and say obviously it's with how multiple they've been with their fronts. I think you look at Josh Sweat as a guy that can line up in a 2-point stance off the edge. He can line up with his hand in the dirt inside the offensive tackle, outside the tight end, whatever it is. His ability to disrupt has been impressive this year. He's had a number of really good rushes that will stand out on tape and say, oh man, like the quarterback got the ball out really fast, but that was a great rush from Josh Sweat. He's been one of my favorite players to watch on this Eagles defense this year.
I'll have Josh Sweat. I'll have Zach McPherson, who's played more and more,
sure,
has played better as the weeks have gone along, Fran. And I think there's a reason why the Eagles feel so strongly that Zach McPherson will develop into a very fine cornerback on this team.
He had a really good summer. Remember, it felt like every day he was making plays in the secondary in training camp. And so continue to watch him develop will be a lot of fun. Corner is a hard position to play as a rookie. We see that with top picks around the league every single year. A lot of the young guys, when they first get into the NFL, really struggle. And I think we've seen that top picks, first-round picks, second-round picks. So to come in as a rookie and say, hey, I've got the ability to sit behind Steven Nelson, sit behind Big Play Slay, and just watch them work every single day as I get my feet under me, that's really going to be really beneficial for him down the road.
It's interesting, Fran, looking at this Washington roster, the depth chart. Former Eagles, DeAndre Carter. DeAndre Carter has made a bunch of plays for them. He's done a really nice job, and we always kind of thought he was a little...
He's a nice player.
Yeah, dynamic return man and a good third down receiver. Casey Toohill,
yes,
who a 7th-round draft pick, I believe, of the Eagles last year.
Started a couple games for them this year.
He's on the COVID list, unfortunately. We talked a little bit about in the safety position, or was it cornerback position earlier?
Jeremy Reeves.
Yeah.
He was at training camp, was it 2018, I believe. Wendell Smallwood had a bunch of carries for them a few weeks ago.
John Toth is looking at this point, perhaps at being their starting center. He was on the practice squad here. And the downside of the COVID situation is that, yes, a lot of rosters are hamstrung and coaches are stressed and challenged, and it's very tough. And I mean, we really certainly hope that every one of these players is not seriously ill and that they get better quickly. But for the Cleveland Browns of the world, the Washington football teams of the world, with more than a dozen, almost 24 players on the list, it does create opportunities for other players to get on the field and show what they can do. There will be some stars born out of this COVID crisis.
The thing to remember is that NFL teams, that we talked about earlier, they have this mindset, that mantra of next man up. And when you look at a team that just this week, what happened to the LA Rams on Monday?
Amazing.
They lose Jalen Ramsey. They lose their starting tight end. Day of the game on Monday Night Football. They have no time to be able to react. They go out and they beat the number one team in the NFC. Go back to last year. Cleveland Browns were decimated by COVID-19 a year ago, trying to get into the playoffs. They finally get into the postseason. Kevin Stefanski, the head coach, gets COVID-19. He can't be on the sideline. They find ways to win. You get contributions from backup offensive linemen like a David Dunn, or the backup receivers, backup corners. Everybody finds a way. They rally and they find a way to win. If you're the Eagles, you can't just come in and think this is going to be a cakewalk if Washington is missing double-digit guys. You've got to come in ready to execute, ready to do your job, and come away from this game with a W.
And I know for some fans out there, they go, geez, who cares about the bottom of the roster guys? You practice squad. Every single person who ever touches an NFL practice field is a great player.
2 words, Joe Webb.
Exactly.
Right? Like you have those guys come up every single year, and you don't want them to be the team that they break out against.
Yeah, for sure. So the Eagles must, and the energy level has been great here at the NovaCare Complex. The focus has been terrific. The Eagles clearly know what is at stake. And the crowd, I think, Fran, will be so into it on Sunday. I think this city of Philadelphia is really warmed up to Nick, understands what he's all about. They understand this football team at one point was 2-5 this season. They have battled back into the playoff picture. And I think everybody's just genuinely thrilled that there are meaningful, we are in the midst of the playoff push games in mid-December. So I expect a raucous environment at Lincoln Financial Field.
I think the place is going to be rocking on Sunday. This will be the first division game for the Eagles at home this year. They play Dallas and New York on the road. So I would think that Eagles fans are going to be ready to roll here on Sunday afternoon.
It's our continuing coverage of the Philadelphia Eagles 2021 regular season presented by DraftKings, as we see head coach Nick Sirianni taking a solitary stroll through the NovaCare Complex practice fields, which, by the way, are in great shape. Now, the type of grass, I believe, is a zoysia, but I'd have to get that officially. But zoysia changes its color. It does not lose its thickness or its firmness or its hold on the ground. So while it may not look lush and green, it is instead lush and tan, I guess I would call it.
Okay, I'm trying to think of what the best descripting color would be. I got to get into a Crayola box and find the answer there.
It's not brown. I'd say it's more of a tan. But you can tell, look, it's a beautiful, beautiful day here in South Philadelphia. The weather forecast for Sunday is 50 degrees and relatively warm, a high of 50. Jake Elliott is celebrating somewhere. What a season he has had. What a great operation Michael Clay and his staff has put together. And there is Jason Kelce, the most, listen, he's a great center. He's a tough guy. He's an emotional guy. He's an honest guy. And he's a healthy guy. He said that coming off the bye week, he really responded to treatment. And, Jason Kelce in position once again to start here, Fran. And maybe we take it for granted, but I'm telling everybody, do not take Jason Kelce for granted. He will not last forever.
And remember, the Eagles' Walter Payton Man of the Year honoree. And it's something he talked about this week at his press conference, just the honor for that. But then also reflecting on his teammates and their journey. He talked about Lane Johnson and the things that he has gone through. And, Jason Kelce has meant so much to this organization over his career. That how honored he was for this to be bestowed upon him. But I would urge everybody, make sure you go check out the full-length feature, the piece that was done when Jason found out that he was being named the Walter Payton Man of the Year for the Eagles. It's on PhiladelphiaEagles.com, the Eagles mobile app, all the digital channels. Just awesome stuff and really good insight into Jason off the field.
Yeah, he's ready to start his 119th consecutive regular season game, the longest active streak among NFL centers. It is the longest streak by an Eagles center since the 1970 merger. And he's the first NFL center with 100-plus straight starts in the regular season. Chris Myers did it 2007 to 2014, 123 games. So if availability is the best kind of ability, then Jason Kelce's an all-timer.
Yeah, I think we're going to be talking about Jason Kelce as a potential Hall of Famer moving forward.
Fran, we see LaRaven Clark there, number 74. interesting move in the bye week. Eagles extending his contract. Now, they signed LaRaven Clark. Fans, hey, no problem if you don't know who LaRaven Clark is. Came off an injury last year, I believe with the Colts last year.
Yep.
Signing him to another deal, like to me, it says to me, hey, the Eagles think they have something with LaRaven Clark. They want to get him all the way healthy, get a year to work with him, and see what he could do next year.
This was a guy that was a third-round pick a few years ago coming out of Texas Tech. And in that offense at Texas Tech, it was a non-traditional offense. We'll say that. It was a pure air raid style offense, and he was all traits coming out. And there was a reason why, despite that, he was still a third-round pick. I remember seeing him at the Senior Bowl that year, and you could see that he was just such a moldable ball of clay. And he has turned into a really nice, solid backup, a swing tackle who has played both left and right tackle. He's played some guard in the NFL. He did that this summer as well once he got healthy here in training camp. So I think when you look at LaRaven Clark, the Eagles certainly think they have something there, and they value so much the versatility and the unique skill set. LaRaven Clark has both of those things in his pocket.
Yeah, and just keep adding to the offensive line. I mean, if you don't know by now, pay attention. It's all about the quarterback position and the line of scrimmage in the NFL. And that's why the Eagles continually put so many resources into quarterback, into offensive line, into defensive line. You can never have enough of all three.
No doubt. We see Lane Johnson making his way back there, working with Roy Isfin, the Eagles' assistant offensive line coach. Brent Selleck there in the foreground, working with those guys. We know that Connor Barwin works with the offensive line group. So obviously a group that the Eagles place a lot of value in, and it's not just with the players on the field, it's who supports those guys, because you want to continue to develop and coach these guys up, and it's something that you see in every facet of the organization.
Love it. We are covering the Philadelphia Eagles on this beautiful Thursday here at the NovaCare Complex. Our coverage presented by DraftKings. We are glad to have you along with us. It seems like it's been forever since the Eagles played a game. In fact, it's only been, 11 days here. The Eagles last playing the New York Jets, 31-18 victory for Philadelphia. Gardner Minshew, Dallas Goedert, Miles Sanders, big offensive games. And defensively, the Eagles, after a slow start, a weird game, wasn't it, Fran?
It was.
The Eagles gave up 3 touchdown drives, boom, 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 to a good-looking young quarterback, by the way. Zach Wilson's going to be a nice quarterback. And then they clamped down on the New York Jets.
Yeah, I remember that first drive started with that really short field after the long kick return, and so things could have spiraled, but you saw the defense rally and get better as the game went on. I thought they did a really good job with their disguise, and they had a different kind of plan of attack against Zach Wilson than what we had seen. And I think that's the thing that's been really fun to watch with this defense over the previous few games, is that every week the game plan and the philosophy kind of changes. One week, hey, we might be blitzing a lot. On third down, it might be heavy man coverage blitzes. Then the next week, a couple weeks ago against the New York Giants, we're going to show blitz and we're going to drop everybody out and still be really aggressive with a 3-man rush. And then the following week, hey, we're not going to show blitz at all. We're going to just play a lot of disguise on the back end. A lot of fun watching this group.
Good stuff. The Eagles defense there practicing that scoop and score. Maybe we'll see one on Sunday. Hey, we want to thank you all for joining us here on this Thursday. Our continuing coverage of the Philadelphia Eagles 2021 regular season presented by DraftKings. I'm Eagles insider Dave Spadaro for Fran Duffy. Thanks for joining, everyone. Make sure you're with us the rest of the day here as we update you on everything happening at the NovaCare Complex. Have yourselves a great Eagles day. Fly, Eagles, fly, and go Birds!